Hello everybody, and of course welcome back to Dickie's videos where no war game remains unplayed. And without further ado, here we are again with another Field of Glory 2 medieval video. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, to continue the support of my channel, clicking that like and subscribe button and coming back for more further content. So here we are. I've had today the announcement of the Field of Glory 2 Medieval, the First Blood tournament, of course, which I will be playing in. Of course, this is a way off when this video is released, but if you're watching this after, it's not a problem. It's in the same kind of thing. This is, of course, my faction overview for the next upcoming First Medieval tournament. Of course, I'd like to give you my shared experience of the tournaments, what I like playing in. Of course, looking at the terrain, troops, what could be bad, etc. And just showing you my overall experience. Okay, so we got a couple of rounds here. So in this, I'm going to put the link below to the tournament. Hopefully it's still working whenever this is, and it always should be. So we're looking at 1, 2, 5. We've got 5 rounds altogether here. We're going to be looking at each individual army and its pros, cons, and of course what could happen. So today we're going to be looking at the round 1, which is of course the England 1066. This is the Norman 1041, 1071 AD versus the English Anglo-Saxon list of 1066. Of course, in North European agricultural terrain. These lists are brilliant, bringing heavy troops and a lot of pain between them here. So let's get right into the grips of the list. So looking at the, so we've got the Norman list to go forward, straightforward. So, like I said, some of these points may not match up completely with what happens on the tournament day, but I'm just going to give you a generic overview of the two factions to see which is better. So, of course, here, the Normans, having a hefty... these units are brilliant. These Knightly Lancers are in a league of their own. If in open terrain, you can get any peasants or spear defensive units, you could probably do a lot of damage. If you look here, we'll have a quick look. The Knightly Lancer giving 100 POA, plus 100 208 unless steady non-charging pike offensive spearman. So a disrupted pike unit or spearman unit, you're going to be massive, doing really well. So we have got a choice of, we could up to 10, but that would be a bad idea. Of course, we have the, which I believe to be a strong list here, starting for the Normans, of course, is the Dismounted Lancer. Is offensive spearman, armoured and superior. Heavy foot, which of course restricts the terrain factor. Spearman defensive, a good unit to hold the line if you've got a couple of spear points, 36 points, which makes them good. But if I was at a push to shove, I would dismount the knight sergeants if I wanted more dismounted knights and sergeants. But remember the size, 240 men, and that will be an even smaller unit as the cavalry unit. We come down to the peasants, which if you're desperate and you've got enough points, but crossbowmen, archers, light archers, a good array, light crossbowmen. But to be honest, the one thing I could see this Norman list lacking in is projectiles. It's got one unit of full-bodied crossbowmen, but no other units. Actually, no, I do apologise. It can have 3 units, but I'd preferably have the crossbowman because we know we're going to be fighting an army with armour advantage and we want to use the benefit against other cavalry and half limited. But we can have up to 3 units of full-bodied archers here, which is sizable, and I think I would take them depending on the terrain we have. If it's an open field, we would just walk into each other and slap each other. But if it's a defendable obstacle, we have a good hill we can sit behind with our dismounted lancers. So my list here would be a combination of dismounted lancers, because we can have a whole heap of them, and these guys will absolutely rain on the POA advantage against armoured spearmen here would be huge. And then what I'll probably do after that is all the crossbowmen, all the archers as we can, and then depending if I had some points left, I'd probably have I'd match the 6 cavalry units, so we've got for the either flank. Because I think having enough of these this cavalry is good. The issue is it's good. It's better than average cavalry because of the Knightly Lancer POA. And of course, if we had anything, I don't know. Like I said, probably would have to take maybe the 1 archer unit out and just fill it out with 48 points though. That's a difficult one. I think I would do that, but it's leaving a very odd points left. So you'd have to try and wiggle that. So if we I think I would go heavy Lancer here. I would go heavy Dismounted Lancer just because of the POA advantage. And once they get in combat, they're going to grind everything up. So looking at, of course, the English list in comparison here, I like Housecarls. I've got to say, in Field of Glory, 2 Ancients, but of course, this as well. Housecarls are probably my favourite. The problem is the Normans have a good list because they have a ton of Dismounted Lancers. We'll go straight onto the English list, the Anglo-Saxon list. So if we look on the other side of the tail here, I think what would be the contributing factor here? So if we look at the cavalry, unfortunately the Normans have the advantage with cavalry numbers. They can have twice as many we have here. That could be a slight problem in an open field. We could get outflanked. So, but what we have advantage on here, of course, with the Norman forces is, of course, the Housecarls heavy weapon PO advantage. So if we just click that down. So we're getting heavy weapons, unless infantry charging, mounted shock, and also the troop quality as well. Heavy weapons plus 110 POA, and any foot, elephants, camels, another 50 POA advantage, and also the armour advantage. So if we look at the advantage just as it is, they've got the lights, they got the disadvantage with the cavalry because we're only fielding light spear swordsmen, and the Normans are fielding knightly lancers, which will end of the day wreck these cavalrymen. They will wreck them all day long. But the advantage we have then yet again is in the foot. The Housecarls are, of course, the undrilled heavy foot, unmaneuverable superior, armoured heavy weapon, which there is fantastic. We come down yet again to it's all armoured here. It's all armoured, which is good. And the Housecarls are brilliant, and the Armoured Spearmen are fantastic staying unit, and we're actually given 5 units straight away, which is brilliant. The fact is, it's just a good list. It's just a good list, and this couple of selections here, I wouldn't choose the Raw Spearmen unless I was very desperate, or even the Peasants. You see, I was tempted to go. I'd have to choose all the cavalry because if it was an open field, remember this will be selected on a medium battle size for the tournament. I think we are on a medium size here. I will just double check. I think we are. And of course we come down to, and if I was going to be a bit of a a bit of a naughty monkey about it, I would just run at him with all of the heavy foot. I'd run at him, depending what terrain factor is, I'd just run at him with all the heavy foot and slap him in the face. To probably mix things up a little bit, we don't have any you see the issue, we don't have any mounted javelin troops to actually counter the enemy cavalry here. So we've only got a combination of lights that we could have. I mean, to be honest, I'll probably get rid of the light javelin troops because I don't want to get caught in the open with a cavalry, because that's my concern here. And gives us 300 points left, where it would be all just decent infantry. All decent infantry I could have. At the last, I don't want to choose peasants if I don't have to. I'd rather just have the 2 javelin troops to not have any peasants. Even then, we've still got points left, which could have 2 peasants, or even a token raw list there. So I think that's what would go. The Normans here is about slapping the English list in the face. Sorry, yeah, the English list is about slapping the Norman face in, so slapping the French thing there. So that's the combination I think I would choose there. So we'll click. We're going to have to move so I can actually see this forces. So there we go. Normans. So the Normans, are mostly a good advantage with the cavalry, good troops with the dismounted lancers, but really falling short with the heavy weapons here, which could really dominate. But of course, the Anglo-Saxons got the Housecarls, which I think will cause a problem here for the Normans here, but pretty good. So I think we did select medium force. Let's just go back onto the main menu. I think we did actually select. Just go so we'll check this. Yeah, we did go medium forces, so that's it. So we're going to go and look at the round 2, which is Flanders, which I'll see you in just a second. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen, of course, in Flanders Field. The poppies grow. So This, of course, is the French versus the German Imperial, the 1155 to 1319 AD, the 1200 to 1319 AD. That is the correct list, yes. And, of course, the Northern Europe agricultural setting. Great respect for the French list here. But I will say, a spoiler, that the German lists, most of the German lists in Field of Glory Medieval are good. They have some really good dismounted foot, and they can really hurt us. So we're going to look at of course, the French list, which is knights, knights, knights. That's all we need to know about. So as you can see, we can have a massive point average. Points into knights here, but of course we can dismount them if we're desperate, depending on the terrain type. If it's not favourable to have cavalry, we can dismount, but of course remember the problem with reducing the amount of troops we have there in that. But it is what it is on the tin. Knightly Lancers, swordsmen, heavily armed, superior, unmanoeuvrable, and of course knights. They are the bread and butter of the medieval era and the field. Coming down to the mounted crossbowmen, it's one unit. It is worth it to harass enemy cavalry if possible, but at this stage with one unit, I don't think I'd probably take that. I think I'd probably be taking foot crossbowmen than the mounted crossbowmen. I think it's a waste of 36 points in my opinion. I think I would stick with the crossbowmen here. We come down to the sergeants, which are probably, they're good for baiting and maybe taking a charge while your stronger cavalry flank, but they are still good, of course, being average armoured lance. They're not like knightly lancer, but they're still lancer. They're still getting some good advantage with a lance, which of lance is open terrain, so 100 POA versus mounted, except mounty lancer. But of course, the German list does have mostly knightly lancer. So at the moment in time, the German list has made that sergeant list, unless you wanted just more cavalry to have more cavalry, irrelevant in the POA advantage if you were micromanaging the whole list. We come down to the Low Country Spearmen, which in the French list is heavy foot, because I fought this French list against the English list a lot, because the English list have Welsh Spearmen, which are medium foot, but these are heavy foot. But remember, of course, with the Low Country Spearmen, they're not taking extra cohesion versus heavy foot. And also with a general in there, they're a big unit to break. But of course, remember, they are offensive spearmen, but if they're severely disordered or disordered, they won't get that PO advantage. Please quote me if I'm wrong there. Armoured spearmen, which are pretty good, standard. If you're you might as well get that unit because it's always good. But this is going to be a heavily knight list, and it's going to be a night off. This round 2 is. It's going to be busy, very busy. Of course, we come down to the defensive spearmen, which are your backbone of your army. If you've got the points, you need the manpower just to hold the line. They are good, but the Imperial list has a lot of knights. Unless you've got big hills and you're getting protected by our own knights, they could struggle here. Okay, the Brigands, of course, rough terrain. Swordsmen, not impact troop. Not impact troop, remember that. The fact is we're not fighting a impact troop. Normally we expect like a irregular foot would outdo this unit or something with an impact. Fact is, I think if I was desperate, I'd probably choose this, but we'll see. So if we come down, of course, to the raw spearmen. Sorry, let me just pay. So, as you can see, we've got raw spearmen, which may, to be honest with you, if you're desperate, but stay away. Stay away from the peasants. Stay away from these 2 units if possible. You've got better units in this list to use. Crossbowmen, definitely. We're going to be fighting a heavily armoured army that needs, of course, to be disrupted. Of course, they're knights as well. Light archers, I think majority I would take all of the light archers and, of course, the crossbowmen. But I think that's all the offensive volley fire thing I'd get. So I'll probably have all of the armoured spearmen. I'd have probably a lot of knights in this list, and I'd be depending on the terrain type, and this is of course depending on what happens on the day when we're given the list, is the fact is, do we dismount, of course, the knights, which I think I would dismount. I think I would overcompensate for the knights, but then I'll dismount them for that reason entirely. You see, people don't do this, and I think it's a mistake. If you're lacking the infantry, you could do it like this. So, I mean, to be honest with you, we've got a ton of points here. Ton of points, which I even probably would bulk out with some armoured spearmen to field the line. But then, of course, on the other side, we would go. You see, I'd have to be depending. I'm gonna have to sit there and recalculate this point allocation, but that's the standard list. A good mix of medium defences, but when it comes down to the knights, dismounting a couple of the units to support in the main line, and then of course sticking a CNC or a sub general in that unit would make it a bit tougher. But this French list, of course, is going to be, of course, heavily knights. Depending if they're mounted or dismounted, is depending what you do. So there we go. That's the French list. So German list is beautiful. Beautiful thing, the German list. I've got to say, the combination of knights, the combination of Teutonic Order. You see, the issue is here, if we look at the top of the list, we're looking at Teutonic Order knights and knights and sergeants. We're paying for the we're paying extra points for the highly superior. And to be honest with you, it's worth it, because I've seen these wreck armies, but I'll let you to be the judge of that, what you do with it. It's costly. It's costly. But if I was to slap 5 units of thing out, I think I might do it instead. You see, but we come down to have city as well. It comes a hard choice. We know the French are going to go. If I was playing French, I'm going to go heavily knights. I am going to go heavily knights. But this list is a good combined list because of the mounted knights, but also the dismounted knights. So it gets best of both worlds. So I don't have to take any mostly cheap crap infantry that could just lose me the battle. So as you can see here, we go from Teutonic Knight Sergeant, City Knights, which are just, we're losing the troop quality as we go down. Of course, coming to the Sergeants, but remember, we're talking about the Knightly Lancer, and one thing the French Knights are good at are Knightly Lancer, so we're losing that POA advantage there from using the Sergeants. Mounted Crossbowmen, which, yes, I would take 2 units here because we know we're fighting a heavily armoured army. And it comes down to the battle wagon. Paint your wagon. Do we choose it? And the probably off top with my current experience of Field of Glory 2 Medieval, no, it's not worth it. And I might regret that one day when I actually learn to use it properly. But I think it's just going to sit there and take up zone of control. But for 79 points, for 1 point less, I can have my Dismounted Lancers, which all day long are going to hold that field, and they are going to smack the crap out of them French line infantry. Absolutely. This is why I've said to dismount some of the knights. That is the key to this game. And then we come down to the Low Country Spearmen, which, to be honest with you, would get smashed by the Dismounted Knight Lancers. And then we come down to offensive. But then all we go now is I just do this combination of having as many crossbowmen as I possibly can fill, because the fact is here we can have raw crossbowmen. So this is try my best to be an anti-knight list, and then I just knock out as many. Well, I think we're going to lose 1 raw crossbowman. My combination here is to slap as much crossbow fire towards them knights as possible, and then just move forward as a body of men. Don't need defensive armoured spearmen. You don't need the spearmen offensive. They're the brigands, raw spearmen, or it's knights, crossbowmen, and knights on horseback. That is the German list. That is what I'll choose. Is that, or in that combination as it, but of course, depending on the field, depending if there's rough terrain, if we'll take the brigands, but nah, not when we can have a ton of crossbowmen. If we get in a high position, we can particularly just shoot them down. That's it. There's nothing else I can say about that, and we'll slap them into a, we'll slap them into a high position, and the crossbowmen would rip the shreds out of them knights. And of course the infantry cannot match our infantry, so as long as we're protecting our flanks with our semi-knights and zone of controlling, we're happy. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen, that's kind of my faction overview for round 2. Flanders, the French versus the German Imperial. Come back in a second where we look at the Estonian list. So here we are, guys and girls, with round 3. This is Estonia, Danish 1200, 13 AD, with the Baltic tribes against the Teutonic Order, representing of course, the Northern Crusades, I assume, in North European Marshy. So, interesting list. So, This is like, hold on here, guys and girls. Baltic Foot. If you've not played these before, get on Fog Medieval now and try the faction out, because you know what, they are certainly interesting. So, marshy, it's going to be hard for the Teutonic Order here, so mind your P's and Q's. So, we're going to be on a marshy thing, so heavy foot are going to be wrecked. Majorly wrecked here. So, if we look at the Danish list, and the combined Danish and, you know what, I wish I looked at what was I think the Baltic foot, I think there isn't much that, I think the Baltic list adds like picked Baltic foot and the Baltic foot and a couple of archers. So looking at the list, the combination list here of the Danish and Baltic, so we have good cavalry, of course the Knights and Sergeant, which are in the open pretty good, in a marshy could be difficult. This would be a no-no map for me using heavy foot, apart from just sitting there on the open ground. We have the Baltic Noble Cavalry, which is good, but just your average cavalry unit. Mounted crossbowmen in this terrain, no. Picked Baltic foot, yes. Okay, a couple of things about this unit. I'm going to stick it there and we'll have a look at some POAs for days. Swordsman, POA against steady offensive spearmen. Impact against foot. It's impact, it's swordsman, it's superior. You'd be surprised how well this unit can do. And more or less here, I would choose both of these units. If we had this terrain type on the day, I'd go all the medium foot. I would literally go all the medium foot. We've got a choice of a good selection of spearman offensive. We would go all Baltic foot because we're going to be moderately disordered in the rough terrain, but remember, a heavy foot unit, which more likely the Teutonic Order will have, will be severely disordered. So we've got a good advantage, and of course, we're just going to go all the light archers because the fact is here, we're going to go and hopefully drag the Teutonic Order into the rough terrain. That is our thing. I've played a lot of the Northern Crusade campaign, and this is what the Baltic foot is really for. You see, this is difficult. It's difficult. So depending on the day is depending what I mean. I think I would just choose all the medium foot. Depending what, we'll have a quick look at the Teutonic Order here soon. I mean, we could go knights and then we could dismount them so they just stay in the rough terrain, off the rough terrain. So this is probably a combination we could do. Is the fact is keep the heavy foot on the plains while the more medium foot are less disordered in the rough terrain, and take all your lights, take all your medium archers and just bait him into the rough terrain, shoot him up. But remember, you don't have to engage the enemy. You can zone control them out, and that is half the battle there. Zone controlling him and forcing him to do moves into the rough terrain if possible. So we'll have a look at course at the Teutonic Order, which is a strong list. It's a very strong list here, but I think in this terrain, if it's bad luck, it's going to be harsh. And I'm hoping the opponent doesn't just camp. So we have a look. So we're coming down from the Teutonic Knights, which are, of course, we've seen before in the previous list, which are epic, kick-ass. They will just walk over everything on this Baltic list. Knights and Sergeants, same thing, just not mounted crossbowmen. The cavalry, we've got the light javelin horse, defensive spearmen, but we do actually get some Baltic spearmen, but these are not the Baltic foot of the Baltic foot tribes. These Baltic levies do not have the impact and they are not as good, so please warn you about the combination here. It's a hard list for the Teutonic Knights. I think the ploy here will be for the Teutonic player to actually pull the Danish and of course the Baltic tribes combination out of the marsh, depending how bad it is, depending what you're going to have to do. I mean, my instinctive thing here is to try and bog them down with as much Baltic levies as possible, and crossbowmen, raw crossbowmen, light archers, and as much medium foot as I can particularly bring to this battlefield, because on a bad day terrain we are going to be in a whole lot of trouble here. It's not going to be a good day for the Teutonic Order. I'm favouring the Danish and the Baltic tribe nation at the moment in time here, just because of it. because of the impact foot. The difference between the Baltic foot and the Baltic foot levies is quite huge, and I think will make a difference. I mean, it's not good. It's not good for us here at all. I'm not holding the chances. I've got to see how it goes. But I think that's the combination I'll go. It'll be maxing out all of my medium foot to remove that advantage from the Baltic player. Because looking at the forces here, end of the day, he could hide mostly in this rough terrain, try to bait the cavalry into the rough terrain, and then it's all gone. So it's a hard decision here. It's all going to be terrain dependent what goes on here. But bonus, my still gut instinct is still on to the Baltic Danish tribes. So tricky round for the third round here. So we'll come back very soon for the fourth round out of 5 in a second. So we come hot and fast to the fourth round, which of course is the Ukraine 1223 AD Russian with Cuman versus of course the Mongol Europe in steppe plain. Gonna be interesting. So I didn't realise we got extra trebuchet here. The Russian forces, this is a cavalry off. This is going to be cavalry. We've got to be careful here. Remember, the Mongol list is mostly, apart from the best equipped cavalry, archers. So we've got a decision to make. Either we go foot to block the cavalry, or we go cavalry and things. So we've got to remember, we lack cavalry archers here. So what I would do here, because I know the Mongol list, because I played it so many times, we're going to max out our nomad horse archers, and then once after that we'll start looking through the list again. So we look at the top. We've got knight sergeants, which you see are slow, but if they hit the Mongol list, they will wreck even the best equipped cavalry. We have expert horse archer. You see, I think this could be a combination against the Mongols where we don't take the knights and sergeants, where we go Tartar kind of at them, because remember, we're going to have lots of cavalry with archer shooting at us. So we've maxed out our nomad horse archer. Lithuanian cavalry, no. I think armoured cavalry, and then all the nomad horse archer we can actually have. So I think this is an easy choice for me. This is what we would choose. I would choose on, and this is particularly what I think I'm going to choose. We're not gonna. You see, we've got unfortunately one unit of rough spearmen that are going to have to sit behind doing particularly nothing the entire game. See, looking at this list straight away, we've got 2 expensive cavalry that will get shot up, baited. The AP points of this cavalry are too low. The fact is, this is not a good unit to have to be in this combination battle. The fact is, it's too expensive, too slow. Not for the amount of battle we're about to have against the Mongols. Expert horse armors, good quality armor. It's the bow. The bow. Of course, coming to the nomad, we want the cavalry to match the best equipped cavalry of the Mongols. We don't want the Lithuanian cavalry. It's just above average and armor, light speed. It's not good enough. But we want the bow and the swords, of course, again, and of course the nomad horse archer to fire back. No Lithuanian early cavalry. No need for light javelin. No need for trebuchet. No need for any infantry whatsoever, or even infantry on the foot. Exactly what we need. There's no point even looking at infantry here. I think it will be a rout if you choose infantry, because what he would do in his list is shoot the crap out of you. And we're going to look at it now. So looking at the Mongol list, it's all about shoot and scoot. Of course, we'll max out our melee cavalry, you idiot. Of course, depending on terrain, we're going to stick to the open. This is a deep stream, so in this field, we'll rush up and block to let him land on there. We have, of course, the expert horse archer. It's the armoured, which is good. And of course, we come down to the Mongol Tartar, protected bow swordsman, nomad horse archer as the lighter cavalry, down to the Mongol Tartar light horse, nomad horse. So what you see, we got the combination of we can have more Mongol Tartar cavalry or less and have some expert. But I think I played a couple of lists against these. I'd rather have just a truck ton of cavalry. If I get a whole heap of disruptions on him, even this cavalry here, protected bow swordsmen, would have a fantastic day. And if you're using combination, of course, with the best equipped cavalry, if you make mixed battle groups, mixing the best equipped cavalry with these horse archers, you'd be surprised on the great combination of melee but shooting at him at the same time can do, because even the best equipped cavalry has a bow. So if you mix this unit with this unit, that's all you do. You don't do anything else, because that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I'm going to run forward, I'm going to shoot him up, and then I'm going to run away again, because they will evade. I think the best equipped cavalry doesn't evade, but the noble, so you hit with the archers, retreat, disrupt, and then charge him with the cavalry there. Simple as. That is literally it. My advice against the Russian Cumin list: shoot and scoot. This is going to be this is a cavalry open army on an open steppe plain, and that's how I'm going to approach this game: is as many archers as possible and blow the refugees out of water. So there we go. That is round 4. It's going to be brutal this round. There's going to be lots of overcharges, catching in the rear. Watch the flanks. It's going to be about disruption. My plan here is to disrupt with shooting, finish off with the cavalry in combat, and then finish off even with the Tartar cavalry in combat. So we'll see you on round 5 in a second. So here we are on the 5th round of the First Blood Field of Glory 2 Medieval multiplayer tournament. So we're looking at now the 5th round, which two armies, well, the Bohemian army, which I'm very unfamiliar with, so this is going to be, I'm going to have to go and practice this. We've got to the 1st of March, I've got plenty of time. It's, of course, the Hungarian versus Bohemian list. So we'll have a quick look at the Hungarian list. It's the 1200 to 1319 AD list. Of course, we've got access to Knightly Teutonic Order, 1 unit. In a bigger combination, the Knightly Lancers. Depending if the Bohemian list can have Knightly Lancers, that's the POA advantage gone. But he can have lots of cavalry there at the same position. Skritzli Cavalry, which is some armour, 50% bow. Good combination of cavalry here, but also definitely good nomad horse archers. Good combination of cavalry and bow cavalry. Nomad horse archers will add standard wagon. Of course, spearmen defensive, irregular foot, crossbow archers, and light archers. So a cavalry heavy list here, it looks like. So if we look at the Bohemian list, we're in pain. I think the Hungarians are in trouble, this list. Very much in trouble here. So we've got a combination, depending on the terrain. This would be fought on a North European agricultural map. So if we get some big plods of rough terrain, this could be interesting. So we don't have the infantry to go against the standard list, their standard list here. Basic infantry is going to get absolutely wrecked. You see, I'd be tempted. I don't know if it's going to happen on the day. I'm covering all these on my channel when this tournament comes out. I'm tempted to go all cavalry. I don't know. This is a hard one. Because I want to deny him the fact is what I would do as the Bohemian list, just looking at it for that time. I'm tempted I will go all cavalry here and be a right arsehole to him. Because you can do it. You can do it. I'd go all cavalry. I literally would go all cavalry here. There is no reason to go. There's no reason to go infantry here. Looking at the Bohemian list, there's just no point. We're going to get absolutely smashed on an infantry-based infantry here. Nah. Not worth it. Not worth it. We're going to get whooped with the Dismounted Lancers. Armoured, Spearman defensive, Spearmint. No. I would decidedly, depending on the terrain type, because our infantry is crap, we would get smashed across the field. I think that is the combination we'll go for, is cavalry here. For the last 2 rounds, it's all cavalry, especially for the Russian and now for the Hungarian. So we're going to take a pop look at the Bohemian list and see what they had. But like I said, the Hungarians are in for a treat, because straight away I'd take 7 units of Dismounted Lancers all day long. All day long. Depending if the terrain was particularly unfavourable towards us. If it was massively rough terrain, I'd maybe reconsider it. So depending on the day, this might change. But in an open field, nah. All day long. And then knowing the weakness of the Hungarian army, because I think if you mess up and choose mixed infantry with the Hungarian army, this is going to walk it. I'd just go a couple of units of lights, mash out as much. I don't. Can we go one less here and take two? Yeah, we could just 2-3 units of. Yeah, I would go heavy knights, heavy foot knights, and just walk up and slap the living bejesus out of that Hungarian player's face, because this is a tough list. Absolutely. Instantly looking at this list, there's no point for the irregular foot unless there's masses of raw medium terrain. Stay away from the defensive raw spearmen. Crossbowmen, I don't think they're going to be enough lull time. And archers, enough lull time. No, and I'm in great confidence. This is what I'll choose. So, depending on your opponent, depends the way he looks at this. So, the Hungarian list, of course, cavalry. Lots of cavalry to try and counter this infantry list, because it's going to be brutal. I don't know the way. I'm very undecided. I want to say I go towards the Bohemian because of the dismounted Lancers, dismounted Sergeant Lancers, but of course I'm undecided. But I'm undecided, but slightly hammering towards the dismounted Lancers. Hard day there for us. So that is a fifth. I'm undecided on this 5th round. There's too many variables involved here until you see the terrain type. Like I said, if it's open ground, go cavalry as Hungarian. If you are open ground, just use all because we'll slap them in the face. Once this you just walk forward. Hard choice. I'm undecided here completely now. I don't know what combination I would use, but I think definitely I would go all foot for the dismounted knights and sergeants, because they are brutal. They will do the damage in an open terrain or even on a hill covered by some of the crossbowmen. But at the same time, leaning towards all cavalry as the Hungarian forces. But interesting 5th round. I can't wait to play this round. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is the overall my faction overview for the medieval First Blood tournament. So remember to click that like, subscribe button, but follow this playlist, because this is where all the videos will go for this when it comes up in the 1st of March, or if you're watching this, it'll be in the playlist now. So thank you for watching. Hopefully I've been helpful. Please comment below, and of course I will see you on the battlefield. Where? When? Well, let's find out, and bye-bye.